It has been a fruitful week, actually. My name is Iken Langena, and this is the Byte-Sized Lessons from the Storyteller student. I remember being much younger, the first time I went to the farm to plant my own corn. Well, I call it the farm. It was actually just a garden at the back of the house, but for me, the young me then, it was a farm. And one of the things that I remember about it is the sequence, the process I went through to plant this corn. The first thing which I had to do was to till the ground, to mix the soil. Even before I could even think about planting this corn, I had to mix the soil very well. And after mixing the ground, I took my seed and I dropped it into the ground. Now, when I put the seed into the ground, I thought, okay, that's it. However, I was taught that this is just one of the steps which I had to go through. The next step would then be weeding the garden, and watering my corn until at least it started raining so that the corn would come up. But all this pales in comparison to the feeling I had when at the end I got up my first corn cob. Now I do this and you think it was a big piece of corn, but it was just a small piece of corn. Yet for me it felt so good to have my first fruit. Now why am I talking about my experiences? Well, speaking is essentially the same as a farmer going out to his farm. Why? Because there are three things which you have to do as a speaker. The first thing is, just like me, to till the ground. And tilling the ground for a speaker is making connections with the audience, reaching out to them, getting them to know you are there. This could be as simple as just giving them a smile in the beginning, or it could also be as simple as the pause you give them in the beginning to let them get used to your presence. Now, as you go through these steps, you are merely preparing their hearts, their minds to receive the seed you are about to plant. And the brings me to the second step, where you're going to actually put the seed into their hearts. The seed is nothing else but the core of the message which you want to pass to your audience. The core of your message, you have prepared for it. You have made sure that it is ready to be sown. Now you have to sow it into their hearts. And this is where you tell them what you really want to tell them. The third part is making sure that your plant stands, making sure that it takes root, making sure that it does not die because of distractions. And that's the first part I want to talk about, because what happens is you need to remove everything that would distract from your story, anything which would add unnecessary flavor to your story. You remove it from the plant, from the farm. And by removing this, you give it all the opportunity your speech needs to take hold. The second part, which I actually want to spend a little bit more time on, is watering the seed. Now, watering the seed is what you do by telling them stories. You take stories, different stories, or one story, it doesn't matter, but you take stories and you add it to the core of your message, so your seed. And by adding stories around it, essentially what you do is you help it to take better root into their hearts, because of course, as you already know, or as I'm happy to tell you, stories reach even our hearts and touch our emotions. And this means that you put in more energy into it and get more out of your audience by sharing these tales. So, because you're watering the stories, you help it take root, you help it to blossom, and of course, in the end, you carry your fruit. Why am I talking about fruitfulness? Because for me, fruitful it's a simple word, and yet it is a word that carries within it so much imagery. Once I say fruitful, the image that comes to my mind at least is a basket full of different fruits. Or well, in this day and age, it's a truckload of different fruits. But essentially, it talks about the fact that you have been able to take that seed, multiply it, and bring out so much more. So then, My question to you, what are you going to learn from a farmer this week? How are you going to make sure that the stories you tell help the seed to take root? And how are you going to make sure that those people who are stepping out of your session are going to bear fruit?